exactly the purpose of our work, trying to understand what do we mean by adaptive capacity, which would mean capacity development in the context of adaptation. And if we look at the capacity literature, the number of definitions are never ending. Same we can see in the adaptive capacity realm. But at its basic form, recent work from colleagues tells us that capacity is those skills that allow us to change our behaviors, attitudes, and practice in the case of adaptive capacity towards adapting to new changes in climate or impacts. And that's why our work focuses on that, because we believe that's the key component of any adaptation program.
And is that the is that the most important thing to focus on when you're working out how successful a project is?
Well, that was our question to the audience. Should we look at capacity and adaptive capacity in this context as the unifying concept for measuring success in adaptation? Because if we are looking at long-term horizons and sustainability, do we have that capacity to sustain changes over time? And therefore it's not just about what we see as a result of adaptation investments, but to what extent can we sustain that? And perhaps capacity is the answer to that question.
Is that very much going along that kind of old analogy? I'll butcher it here, but sort of give a man a fish and he can eat for a day, and give him a fishing net and he can eat for a year. Is it along that kind of
yes, exactly.
Understanding that the most important is the human capital rather than the buildings or any other infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, not the most important, but critical. And we've learned that from decades of development, that unless capacity is there, we will not be looking at the future and sustainable outcomes. The challenge becomes to what extent, what is the linkage between capacity, resources, technology, and decision making.
Does that pose a problem for donors who often like to see some physical, concrete evidence of what money they put in? If you say, I've trained up 30 people in adaptation, perhaps it looks less impressive than if you built 2 wind turbines and covered a small village with solar panels.
Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, because we are always looking for the tangible big impacts. No, because there is an acknowledgement that this critical component of capacity. But what tends to happen is that we look at capacity from skills and knowledge, and therefore we don't count turbines, but we do count how many people have participated in a master course, or how many people came through a training workshop, but not actually at what they did learn. Do they have, or do they work in an organization where they can apply the knowledge, and can they actually change the way they used to do things, which is the key for adaptive capacity. So even if we are still more interested in big programs, when we are interested in capacity, we are still looking at numbers and skills and knowledge rather than the so what question.
And just finally, in terms of your research, what countries, what regions have you focused on?
The research departed from this understanding of what is it that we can learn in adaptive from capacity development that can be applied at adaptive capacity. So at the starting point, we were not looking at specific countries. Okay. However, our colleague Jack from the GFDR is providing us some case studies that we will be analyzing from Pakistan, Nepal, and India, so mostly South Asia.